warned Obama last year and introduced the legislation that if the president launched any more military operations in foreign countries without congressional approval, that they were going to start impeachment. And, of course, he's Representative Walter B. Jones, who we're very honored to have joining us here on the broadcast. And he is the congressman hailing from North Carolina, and he's been all over the national news the last month or so as citizens have called for Obama's impeachment over saying that he is going to launch a war in Syria without congressional approval. Now, he backed off a couple of weeks ago, as you know. And now the media is trying to spin it like, oh, don't let the Russians tell us what to do. No, it's the Constitution that's telling us what to do. And if we don't impeach Obama for trying to launch the war without approval, and Kerry's saying they didn't need it, what about the Associated Press reporting Obama waives ban on arming terrorists to allow aid to Syrian opposition? And here's the New American article. President breaks arms export laws to send shipments to Syria rebels. Joe Wolverton got it right, because how can the president say he has a presidential order, not even executive order, blocking federal law on arming al-Nusra, which is commanded by the head of al-Qaeda, who called to attack the U.S. last week? So I've thrown out a few points here of why I think Obama, we should start impeachment now so that they're unable to start a war that some analysts say could lead to a larger regional war or even World War III with 11 Russian ships massing. I'm no fan of Assad, but compared to al-Qaeda, he's pretty much an angel. Rand Paul, Senator Cruz as well have all said it looks like a false flag. Pat Buchanan said that. Rush Limbaugh said that. I see an awakening happening. So I want to ask the congressman that as well. Jones.house.gov is his website to see his updates. And, sir, we thank you for your leadership and courage. It seems, as Mark Twain said, in the beginning, a patriot's a scarce man, hated and feared and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. I think we're seeing an awakening, and I want you to have the floor and talk about whatever you think is most important. But what do you think's happened with this Syria situation, and do you think this is a sign that people are starting to wake up, sir?
Alex, thank you very much for the opportunity and the introduction and your reciting your position in history as well. So let me start by saying I started my feelings about going overseas, sending our young men and women to die in the unnecessary war known as Iraq. Okay, when Mr. Obama became the president of the United States, he indicated he wanted to bring the troops out of Iraq. I supported that personally. And secondly, but then he decided to stay in Afghanistan for the length of 12 years to 2014, and possibly you know, but not maybe all your listeners know, we're in the process of signing a bilateral strategic agreement with Karzai to be there for 10 more years after 2014. And yes, you will reduce the number of troops, but God help those that are staying there. Now let me go back to the issue of why I feel like impeachment of any president, not just Obama. I want to be fair about it. Any president that bypasses Congress and the Constitution to bomb another country who really is not a threat, such as Libya. The president said he called the leadership of the House. Well, I want to inform the president that 435 members of the House and also remind the president there are 100 senators. And just because you elect leadership in the Senate and the House, they don't make the decision for everybody. And when he bombed Libya, if you remember this, Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, myself, and three other Democrats and Republicans, it's 3 and 3, we went to the federal courts with Jonathan Turley being our attorney because we felt that there was a distinct violation of the Constitution. And the courts, as they always do, they threw it out because they said, well, you can stop a war by voting no to fund a war. Well, that's a pipe dream, to say the least. So when I looked at what was happening after Libya, Gaddafi was an evil man, but for God's sakes, we got evil people all around the world. Are we supposed to police the world? We can't pay our own bills. We can't police our own borders. There's got to be some sanity to these foreign policies of any administration, and particularly this one now. So I was ready and still ready to file articles of impeachment, but I was basing mine on the issue of bypassing the Constitution and bypassing Congress to bomb another country. And in the in the short term, the Russians have helped the president by putting a stall on where we are. But there are many in both parties, and I want to be fair about that, Alex, both parties that are very concerned that as this moves forward, that we might wake up one day and we've been dropping missiles in Syria. And you're absolutely right that you cannot fully decide about the rebels. They're so mixed up with different groups within the rebel cause that we don't know who's our friend and our enemy, and Al-Qaeda is definitely our enemy.
Undoubtedly, there's a new Jane's Weapons Quarterly report out saying that at least half of them are hardcore jihadis and basically Al-Qaeda, because Al-Qaeda basically will end up killing anybody that doesn't convert to their radical form of Islam. Well,
Alex, this is the whole thing where I think sincerely that with this, we had testimony. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. We had testimony from the service chiefs, the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force. If sequestration continues for another year, we're just about going to put the military in a situation where they're going to be limited in being able to fight to protect America. But I go back to the issue that you had me on today. I believe in the Constitution. I'm a Ron Paul type person when it comes to foreign aid. I'm just sick and tired of America thinking that we can borrow money from foreign governments and pump up other. I mean, look at Karzai. I mean, his family's in the drug business, and we're sending him roughly $6 to $7 billion a month to prop him up. And here we're going to have a vote tomorrow to cut food stamps for the American people, particularly those that need it. I know there's abuse in a lot of federal programs, but there's no abuse in funding Karzai, and he's a crook.
You're right. I mean, the country is going into a depression by every metric. We've got economic numbers out today. Obamacare is coming in. Now, I want to give you a chance to talk about some of the things you think are most important, sir, but what about specifically, I mean, Obama did blink, and you talk about bipartisan. I do see a big awakening happening right now where bipartisan, 91% of Americans in a Reuters poll are against the strike, 75% in a Army Times poll of active duty say they're against it. I can't find any military I know that are active duty that are for it. What are your constituents? What are the military people you're talking to? What are they saying about the popularity of this war? And how big a deal is it that we saw the president finally have to back off and admit that Congress has to be consulted, but then flip back and say, but if you don't vote for what I want, I can still strike? What will you do if he strikes without congressional authority?
I would tell you this, that if he strikes without a vote of the Congress, you will see both parties, I mean this sincerely, both parties filed articles of impeachment, because we are sick and tired of a president, be Republican or Democrat, to bypass the Constitution and the members of Congress who swear to uphold the Constitution to bomb a foreign country. We are a debtor nation. We cannot even pay our bills without raising the debt ceiling of America so we can borrow money to pay last year's bills. This whole place up here is out of control, and when you come to foreign policy, as Ron Paul would say, let's wake up, let's rebuild America, and to hell with the rest of the world.
I agree with that. So if Obama or any other president tries to launch these preemptive wars, these offensive criminal wars, you're going to move for impeachment. And again, for the folks that don't know, the media spins it and says the president's allowed to respond under war powers. Yeah, if Russians have fired missiles, then Congress is given the authority to defend against it or fire back. Or if we are attacked, we know who does it, then he has the automatic default. But not to go attack a country that's done nothing to us, I mean, that's a war crime.
Yeah, Alex, thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth. The international courts, in my humble opinion, would be encouraged to go to the court system, because a nation, be America or someone else, who is not threatened, let's make that clear to your listeners, not threatened to involve itself in a civil war. And it's like I said recently in an interview, yes, I think it's horrible when people are gassed, but I think it's horrible when they're hit by fragments of a bomb, because it kills them just as dead as the gas does.
Well said. Absolutely. Well, listen, we've only got about 8-9 minutes left with you. We're going to skip this network break.
Sure.
Congressman Walter Jones of North Carolina joins us now that Ron Paul's gone. More and more in the House. He has taken his place. He's been there for many years, but really, Snow, you've been stepping up. We see you a lot. Really turning up the heat on these tyrants. So much more is happening as we learn that Obamacare, even the Wall Street Journal admits, and even ABC News has admitted, 8 taxes on the poor. The Supreme Court rules it is a tax on the poor. I have family that Obamacare is going to bankrupt. A lot of them are veterans that, work at $12 an hour jobs and things. What are your constituents saying about Obamacare? And what about the move we're seeing, House to vote on defunding Obamacare? What can we do to shut this down? And what was the power structure thinking? Because I knew what this bill was 3 years ago. You knew what it was.
Right.
It is a America healthcare system killing, America bankrupting system, in my view. What is your view, Congressman?
Well, I'm with you 100%. No Republican voted for the Obamacare that came through the House when Ms. Pelosi was the Speaker. We've had 39 or 40 votes already in the House to defund, to change certain aspects of Obamacare. We will probably tomorrow or the next day vote on a continuing resolution that will defund Obamacare. We will probably pass that bill in the House, and you probably have a few Democrats to vote for it. This is what we need to, if we could win, real quickly, if we could win the Senate, the best I've ever seen the American people to have the best government, believe this or not, was Bill Clinton was the president. We had the House was Republican and the Senate was Republican, and Newt could get things done for the American people. Because look at it this way, Alex. The president wanted to get things done, but he could not get it through the House and the Senate unless they agreed to help. The House and Senate wanted things done, but they needed the president to sign the bill. We got things done for the American people. And that's the frustration up here now. If we could win the Senate in the next election and have the House and the Senate, we could do a lot of major changes to Obamacare for the good of the American people.
Well, I've been critical of the establishment Republicans like Karl Rove, but you see him on Fox News every week criticizing Ron Paul, Rand Paul, yourself, Ted Cruz. They're upset that real constitutional, libertarian, just American types who are real men. I mean, I know Ron Paul. I know Rand Paul well. We've interviewed and met Cruz. I feel like I know you, interviewing you a dozen times or so. You're real people. And I think the power structure is scared that there is a revolution happening in the Republican Party. And as Matt Drudge has said, 2014 is everything. That's why they're going after the media, the free speech. They're trying to break this country and collectivize it now and get rid of the borders and everything else because the collectivists know their time is short.
Well, Alex, if we could win the Senate, and that's only 4 or 5 seats, and hold the House, and we should be able to hold the House, I promise you we would be in the strongest position we've been in a number of years, and Mr. Obama would have to deal with the House, and that in itself puts us on an even playing field instead of having a president who's a Democrat, the Senate who's a Democrat. That would put the American people on an even keel to make some changes to what I think is probably the worst legislation I've ever seen. I thought Leave No Child Behind was one of the worst bills I'd ever seen, but I can tell you Obamacare, in my opinion, would just bankrupt America.
Well, my dad is a physician, and he's quitting next month.
Good gracious.
He's quitting over it. About a half people he knows are retiring early. In fact, it's been in the Texas news. If you make one mistake on a chart, you go to jail automatically. There's no judge, no jury. I mean, this is designed to destroy American healthcare. So some say, well, let them implement it. That'll destroy collectivism forever. No, no, no. They plan to implode the country and then pose as saviors. We've got to stop the implementation because even though it would show how bad they are, it's immoral to let this thing go in.
You're right, Alex. You're exactly right. This should be about doing what is right for the country and not politics. And what we do is right for the country is restore the constitutional right of the American people.
What are your constituents most upset about right now? Because, again, I'm a radio host, and I've got my finger on the pulse. This country is 10 times more awake than they were in, say, 1993, 94. I mean, this is beyond anger. This is eye of the tiger, focused. I'm here to tell the establishment, people are not going to put up with it anymore.
Well, Alex, I have said many times, and I think there are 2 or 3 senators, you've named 1 or 2 in your conversation the last couple of minutes. We need a Ron Paul, Ross Perot type leader for this country. We need somebody to get in there and to say, listen, you want to attack America, you're going to get the big bombers coming over and they're going to blow you to kingdom come. We need somebody to start fixing the problems here in America and to hell with the rest of the world. Why are we sending this money to Karzai, who's a crook, and we can't even account for half the money we're sending him? The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have already cost this country over $1.5 trillion. That averages out to about $11 million an hour.
Well said, Congressman. So what do you expect, because you've got your ear to the ground on the Armed Services Committee, where Obama says, okay, I've got to go to Congress on the Constitution, doing a 180 thanks to your pressure and others, but you spearheading it. We've got to give credit where it's due. Not to give credit, but to show that doing the right thing. You know, you were pretty lonely a year ago. Now you've got the majority of Republicans and Democrats nationally openly supporting you and are being recognized for that. Now, what do you expect him to do when he doesn't get the authorization and Kerry says we're still going to attack? Is that a bluff, or are they going to back off?
Well, I hope it would be a bluff because, truthfully, there are just as many Democrats. They're more liberal that are against the war for other reasons than maybe you and I are opposed to it. Ours is based on the Constitution. But I can tell you, if by chance that did happen, what you just described, there would be a number of articles of impeachment introduced by both sides in the House. Wow.
Any idea on when they're going to try to, I mean, they've backed off a vote, obviously, to not embarrass the Fuhrer, I mean, the president. Any idea on, because you're on the Service Committee, obviously, sir, and know more than anybody, when they're going to try to creep back in and try to get a vote, or where is the war right now?
Well, I'm afraid our leadership in the House is not going to bring a vote on Syria to the floor until we find out over the next 2 to 3 weeks what is maybe going to happen with the negotiations. I think we should have last week, the House should have brought the bill to the floor to be debated, and a vote up or down just to show that the will of the House is no to bombing Syria.
Sir, we've only got 3 minutes left. I appreciate your time. I wanted to ask you about the Navy Yard shooting 2.5 days ago. In a double secure area, the guy hearing voices, playing 18 hours of video games, on drugs, under psychiatric care. And now Obama says, I need to give my guns up. And Piers Morgan, because in a gun-free zone, this mentally ill person went haywire when overall gun crime's down 49%. What is your take on that, sir? And then any other points you think are important on other subjects that are front and center on your radar?
Well, Alex, if a person is going to commit mayhem, they will get whatever they need. I hate to say that, but it is true. So you cannot punish the law-abiding citizen who is following his constitutional rights, because it's not going to stop those who want to commit crime. It's just not going to stop it. I think we need to do more in the area of mental health, but that's really a state issue with some assistance from the national government. But we need to start doing more in the states to help people with mental problems. We've got men and women coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq with PTSD and TBI. But you cannot violate the Second Amendment right of law-abiding citizens. It just won't fix the problem.
I agree with you. Other important issues, like trying to open the borders up, other things that are going on. What else is on your radar, sir? You got 3 minutes. I'd like to get some closing comments.
Well, the House is moving very slow on the Senate bill. It's not really the Senate bill. The House will have its own version of the bill dealing with the immigration issue. I'm this way. I am not voting to raise the debt ceiling. Alex, we've raised the debt ceiling 18 times since 1993. All that does, for your listeners, all it does is allow America to go to foreign governments and borrow more money to pay last year's bills. We don't ever say no. We always are saying we'll find some way to spend more money. We need to stop it. It is not fair to our children and grandchildren.
What does the Washington elite think they're going to do when every economist says we're already destroyed? Well, these people are crazy.
Well, I agree with them. I mean, I am glad to say that the Syrian issue brought people making phone calls. We had over 435 phone calls to my office We had over 1,000 emails. 97% of those contacting our office by email or by telephone said no to Syria. Let the voices of the people be heard, because that's the only way the American people can take back their government, is let their voices be heard.
What is wrong with the political elite that just think everything's going to be fine forever? Are they disconnected from reality, Congressman Jones?
Well, Ron Paul said it better than anything, that we can continue to dream, but at some point we're going to see a nightmare, because the dream is not real.
Well, sir, I want to say this in closing to you from my family. Thank you for taking the leadership the last 2 years when Obama was more popular, when it was harder to do it, and put impeachment on the line. Because, you know, look at Libya a couple of years ago. They just did it and told you guys to go to hell. That's and right. Now they're having to listen. And I'm telling you, what you've done is historic. And I want to thank everybody else who called Congress and the media. Amen. And everybody that found sanity. But you were right there at the heart of it. So thank you for your leadership, Congressman Walter Jones. And have a great week coming up, sir.
Thank you, Alex. God bless America. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Wow, what a gentleman right there. A real Southern gentleman. They're joining us on the broadcast here today, ladies and gentlemen.
The Alex Jones channel is the official page of the Info War. But don't miss what's happening on our other channels. The Info Warrior, with the week's best videos. Prison Planet Live, where Paul Joseph Watson gives his expert analysis. And keep up with the rest of the Info Wars crew on our other pages. All of our videos are available to repost for educational purposes. See the sidebar of the Alex Jones channel for the subscription links. And remember, you can always find our videos in the highest quality by becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv.